Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to another tutorial. In today's video I'll be showing you guys how to draft the pattern for this double-breasted notch collar halter dress with box pleats. If this sounds good to you and it's something you're interested in, then please keep watching. And if you are new to my channel, please don't forget to click on the subscribe button and also share this video to your friends and give me a giant thumbs up. Now with that being said guys, let's get right into this video. So first things first, we are going to be drafting the front bodies of this dress. Now as you can see on the paper, I left about 6 inches at the top of this paper before I drew my shoulder line. This is because we are going to be drafting the collar on that space. That is why I have 6 inches there. And then at the front, that's the center front of this paper, you can see that there's a space there as well. I left about 4 inches for the overlap. You know, this dress is going to be a double-breasted overlap, so that's why I have about 4 inches there for where to draft the overlap. From the shoulder line, I went ahead to mark my shoulder to bust point, shoulder to waistline, shoulder to hip line, and also shoulder to the full length of this dress, which is 35 inches from the shoulder line. Now, of course, you can either make it longer or shorter, totally depends on your preference. Now, for my shoulder measurement, half of my shoulder is 8 inches, which is 16 divided by 2. So I placed that measurement on the shoulder line and also on the bust line. I connected the 2 points together. Then for my neck measurement, I came out 3.25 inches by 3.25 inches. You can do 3 by 3, totally depends on you. Then I connected it together. And then for my shoulder slope, I came down 1 inch, as you can see, and then I connected it back to the neckline. So the next thing we are going to be marking here will be our chest line, and normally I use 8 inches from my shoulder slope for my chest line, but in this case I'm going to be using 9 inches. That is, I'm going to be coming down 1 inch from my normal 8 inches for chest line. And to get your chest line, you can just divide your bust by 6 and then add 1.5 inches. So I'm going to be coming down 9 inches. That's 1 inch above my bust line. Now from the shoulder slope to the original 8 inches for my chest line, I'm going to be marking the midpoint of that, which gives me 4. I'm going to be using that as reference later on in this video as it progresses. Now the next thing I'm going to be doing now is on the new chest line, which is the 9 inches. I'm going to be marking my bust circumference divided by 4. I'll be placing the measurement right there. And then on the eye shoulder point right there, I'm going to be coming out by 0.25 inch, just like that. Now I'll be moving over to the midpoint of that hammer right there, and I'll be coming out by 1.5 inches. Now you can do 2 inches or even 1 inch, depends on how exposed you want this part to be. So I came out by 1.5 inches from the midpoint, and then I'm just going to be using my hammer curve to connect these 3 points together to form the shape of my hammer. The next thing we want to determine now is our break point, or where we want the lapel fold to start from. So I measured 14 inches from the shoulder line up to that point to serve as my break point, which is also optional. You can measure lower or higher, depends on what you want. Now from that 14-inch mark, I'm going to be coming out by 3.5 inches. Remember, this dress is double-breasted, so the fold is going to be 3.5 inches. So I'm just marking that all the way down from the 14 inches mark. Then I'll be using my marker to further highlight these marks. Now after that is done, the next thing we want to do is to draw the shape of a lapel. And in order for us to do that, I'll just go over to the eye shoulder point right there, and I'll be going in by half an inch from that point. Just watch what I'm doing. Now you can also go in by 1 inch or just leave it at half an inch, totally depends on you. Now from the half an inch mark at the neck area, I'm going to be connecting it straight to the 14 inches break points that we have over there. Just watch what I'm doing. On a slanted line, I'll be connecting those 2 points together like so. The next thing we want to do now is start drawing the shape of our lapel. Now I'm going to place my tape measure this way at the side of the neckline, on that line, slanted line that we drew beside the neck measurements like this. And I'll just slant my tape measure this way and measure 4 inches. Now this length is not fixed. You can do 4.5, 3.5, depends on what you want actually, or what you have in mind. So I'll just connect this 4 inches mark that I have, connect it back into that neck area like so. Just watch what I'm doing, you get it. And then from the tip of that lapel, I'm going to be connecting it back to the 14 inches break point mark like so. Just watch what I'm doing, guys, you get it. So you connect these 2 points together like so. Now after I'm done using pencil, I'm just going to go ahead and use my marker to further highlight all these lines for better visibility and also understanding. So this is the shape of the lapel, as you can see. I hope you guys get it now. So the next thing I'll do is to move over to the head of that lapel and come out by 1 inch. That is where the collar is going to be sitting. So from that 1 inch mark, I'll be drawing the second part of the lapel shape. So I'll be using about 2.5 inches for the length, and I'm going to be slanting my tape measure this way to give us that notched look. As you can see, now this length is also not fixed. You can make yours longer than that, depends on your preference. So I came out 2.5 inches for the length of this second part to create this notched look, as you can see. So I connected it back to the 1 inch mark that we came out by. Now the next thing I'll quickly do now is use my marker to further highlight the shape of this armhole for better visibility. Now after I'm done doing that, it's time to draw the collar for this dress. Now I'm going to be taking my back pattern, and then I'll be measuring the length of this neck right here, and when I did that I got 4 inches. Now I'll be placing that 4 inches on this front pattern at the neck area to form our collar, or the basis of our collar. So I'm going to be placing my tape measure in a parallel way, not this way or that, but in a way that is parallel to the slanted line we have at the middle of that lapel. Now just go ahead and mark the 4 inches for the neck, and you make sure that you're marking this directly on where your armhole is starting from at the eye shoulder point, as you can see. So that is where you're going to be placing your 4 inches for your neck. Doing this will enable you to have a smooth transition from your collar to the eye shoulder point, which connects the armhole to the collar. I hope you understand. Now the width of the collar that I'm working with is going to be 3 inches. Now you can see how I place my tape measure parallel to the paper, and then I'll be marking my 3-inch mark for the width of the collar. Now at the side of this collar, I'll be coming out by 0.25 inches, so you can do half an inch if you want, but I came out by 1/4 of an inch, and I'll be connecting it back into the neckline, and I'll be blending it with my hand into the original front neckline. Just watch what I'm doing. First, I'm going to be connecting the new mark at the collar back into the eye shoulder point, which connects the neckline, and then I'll go ahead and use free hand to kind of blend it back into the neckline of the front. As you can see, just watch closely, you understand what I'm talking about. Now the next thing I'll do is to connect the width of this collar like so with my pencil before I go ahead to use marker to further highlight the rest of the collar for better visibility. And you can also see I'm using my hand to blend this collar back into the neckline for a smooth transition. Now the next thing that I want to do is to trace this lapel onto the other side of the paper, and for us to do that, I'm going to be folding by this slanted line that we drew before. As you can see, I will fold it like so. After I'm satisfied with the fold, I'm going to take my tracing wheel and I'm going to trace out this lapel onto the other side of the paper. And I'll also be tracing the slanted line, the second part of the lapel like so. I'll also trace it onto the other side of the paper. And I'll also be creating a notch at the 1-inch mark right there. And now I'll just go ahead and open up the paper like so. Now opening up the paper will show you that everything we trace is at the other side. So I'll just go ahead and use my pencil to draw these lines out, the traced marks. And after I'm done doing that, I'll go ahead and use my marker to further highlight all these lines for better visibility as shown. The next thing we want to do is to complete the shape of our collar, and I'll be taking the curved part of my ruler like so, and I'll just go ahead and complete the shape. And after I'm done doing that, as always, I'll go ahead and also use my marker to redraw the line for better visibility. That part is going to be unfold on your collar. It's either unfold or you can have two pieces and then you have a joining at that part, but I'm going to be leaving that unfold, so I'm going to be having just one piece for the collar. The next thing for us to do now is to add that to the armhole area in order for us to avoid gaping, and I'm going to be adding a 1-inch dart to that part of the armhole. Now in order for me to do that, I'll be using my nipple to nipple measurement as reference. So my nipple to nipple is 9 inches divided by 2 give me 4.5. So I'm going to be placing 4.5 on the bust point like so. So I'll just go ahead and mark that. I'll be using that as reference for this dart I'm about to draw on the armhole area. Now on the armhole, I'm going to be measuring about 7 inches to 7.5 inches. That is where I want the position of this dart to be on the armhole. Now you can come lower or higher for the position of this dart. Totally depends on what you want. Now I'm just going to go ahead to connect these 2 points together, the new position of the dart and then on the bust line like so. And I'll make sure that the length of this dart is at least 1 inch away from the bust point like so. So I think measurement is 5.5, so I deducted 1. So I'll be having 4.5 inches as the length of this dart. That's 1 inch away from the bust point. Now I'm just going to be taking half an inch on both sides on this armhole like so, and then I'll draw my dart. And I'm just going to go ahead and use my marker to redraw the lines. So the next thing that I'll be doing is going over to the waistline and placing a quarter of my waist circumference, and then I'll be adding 1 inch of sewing allowance to it. Now I'll be replacing whatever I took in from that chest line at that area. I'll be replacing it back to the bust measurement that I have right there, which is about a quarter of an inch. And after I'm done replacing that, I will redraw the shape of the armhole, and then I will go ahead to add 1 inch of extra sewing allowance to the bust measurement right there. The next thing I'll be doing is moving over to the hip line. I'll be dividing my hip circumference by 4, and I'll be adding 1 inch of sewing allowance, and then I'll be transferring whatever I have on the hip line to the hemline like so, and I'll be placing that there. After I'm satisfied with what I have here, I'm going to go ahead and use my straight ruler to connect all these points together in order for me to form the side seam of this front pattern. Now if you look closely, you will see that I do not have a waist dart for this front pattern. It's optional. If you want a waist dart, you can go ahead and place your waist darts, but I'm not going to be using waist darts for this front pattern. The dart is only at the armhole. Now I want to throw the line for this dart because I want the dart leg to be equal, so I'm going to be folding my paper. So I'll just go ahead and fold this paper like so, as you can see, and after I'm satisfied with how I folded it, I'll go ahead and use my armhole curve to kind of reshape the armhole. I'll be redrawing the shape of this armhole, as you can see, following the folded paper. And after I'm done doing that, I'll just take my tracing wheel and I will trace this line that I just drew by folding the paper, as you can see. Now that way I'll be able to redraw the dart leg correctly. You see it's already visible on the paper. I'm just going to be using my marker and ruler to redraw this dart leg like so. For the lower part where the box pleats are located on this outfit, I'll be coming down 6 inches from my waistline. And the 6 inches I came down by isn't a fixed number. You can just decide how low or high you want the pleats on the outfit. So I just came down 6 inches from the waist, and I'm just using my pencil and ruler to kind of draw this line. I'll be cutting this off later on from this pattern. So I'm just going to be placing the buttons on the center front on the overlap. As you can see, you can have 2 or 3 buttons, totally depends on your preference. Now I'll also be labeling this pattern, so I'll go ahead and label the center front and the side front, and I'll also label the collar. I'll also go down below the pleats pattern and also label that. And after I'm done doing that, I'll just go ahead and cut this pattern out. And now you can watch closely how I'm cutting the armhole plus the dart that we have there. Now here is the front pattern with the lapel clearly folded in and also the collar pattern. Now we're going to be moving over to the back pattern so we can finish it up. The back pattern is pretty much the same as the front in terms of the horizontal lines that I drew for the bust point, waistline, hip line, and also the hem line. And for the neck measurement, I came out 3.25 inches by 1.25 inches for the width and the depth of the back neckline. Also, the back pattern is going to be having a waist dart, so I'll be using my nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2 to place that, which is going to be 4.5 inches. So I'm placing that on the waistline, on the bust line, and also on the hip line. Then I'll go ahead and use my ruler to connect these 3 points together like so. So from the waistline, I'll be coming down by 5 inches for the lower part of this dart, and I'll also move over to the waistline, and on the waistline I'll be coming out by half an inch on both sides from the line that I drew from the line of the center of the dart. Then from that point I'll be connecting straight to the bust point line like so to form the upper part of this dart, and then I'll repeat the same process for the lower part of this dart just like I'm doing. Then in order for me to avoid gaping at the bust line, I'm going to be coming out quarter of an inch on both sides of that dart right there, and then I'll connect it back to the waistline as you see me doing, just to tighten up that part. Then I'll go over to the waistline right there at the center back line. I'll be coming in by half an inch as you see me doing. Now from that half an inch, I'm going to be connecting straight to the upper part of the paper, and then I'll connect the other side to the lower part of the paper like so. Just watch what I'm doing. I just need that place to be a little bit curved. I don't want it to be straight, the center back. So I'll use my marker to further highlight for better visibility. Just watch what I'm doing. Now the next thing I'll be doing is placing the circumference of my waist divided by 4. I'll be placing it on that line, and then I'll be adding back the 1 inch that we took. Then I'll also be moving over to the new chest line, where I'm going to be placing the circumference of my bust. Remember, just how we did for the front, that's 1 inch above the bust line is where the new chest line is going to be. So now I'm just going to place 1 inch of sewing allowance on the waistline, and also place 1 inch of sewing allowance on the bust line. Then I'll move over to the hip line and also place a quarter of my hip circumference, and then I'll add 1 inch of sewing allowance. Then I'll transfer whatever I have on that hip line to the hem line like so. So what I'm just doing is using my marker to highlight the dart shape like so. After I'm done doing that, I'll move over to the center back line, and I'll come down 1/2 inch from that bust line. Then I'll be connecting it from that point on a slanted line to the bust measurements, just like I'm doing. I'll be using marker to highlight that for you guys to see. And after I'm done doing that, I'll just complete the side seam by connecting all these points together, from the bust to the waist to the hip and also to the hem line. Just like I did for the front, I'm going to be measuring 6 inches from the waistline downwards, which will serve as where the box split is going to be located on this back pattern. So I'll just be using my ruler and pencil to mark out this line before I go ahead and use marker to highlight it. And after I'm done using marker, I'll just go ahead and label this pattern, the center back, the side back. So I'm just going to be bringing forward the front pattern by the side seam, so you can see that both the front and back side seams are aligned together. There has to be a smooth transition between the front and back, so you won't have difficulty when you're joining on fabric. Now I'll just go ahead and cut the back pattern out. I will also be cutting through that line to demarcate where the box pleat is going to be on this outfit, which is going to be the lower part, as you can see. Now for the upper part of the back pattern, you'll be having 2 pieces for that, for the left hand side and right hand side, and you'll be closing up this dart on your fabric. You can just transfer it to the fabric and then you close it up. If you don't want to open it up into 4 pieces, you just close it up on the fabric. Then you'll be having 2 pieces for the back, for the upper part. Now I'll just go ahead and also repeat the same process for the front pattern by cutting through that line to demarcate where the pleats are going to be on the lower part of the front. And you'll also be having 2 pieces for the center front, that's the left hand side and the right hand side. You'll be having 2 pieces for the upper part. Now for the pleat pattern under, you can just slash the paper through, and then you can decide how big or small you want your box pleat to be. You can also do that on your fabric directly, or you can pleat using your slash and spread method to pleat on paper first before you transfer to your fabric, or you can just pleat on your fabric and lining directly before joining to the upper part of your bodies. Totally depends on the method you want to use. Now on that note guys, we've come to the end of today's tutorial. If you found my video helpful, please give me a giant thumbs up and also share my video. And if you're new to my channel, please don't forget to click on the subscribe button, and don't forget to turn on your notification bell so you can get notified of my latest uploads. Now till I see you in my next one guys, bye.